Welcome to Phyllis the Schlafter Show. I'm Lizz Winstead, and this is the show where we dissect Hulu's Mrs. America, drag Phyllis Schlafly for filth, and then talk about stuff we like. It's awesome. It is so great. And every week, I am joined by my co-host, the illustrious Moji Alawode-El.
Hello.
And Molly Gaebe.
Yes.
And back, the only guest we have had for a second appearance. It's very exciting. International badass feminist, national affairs correspondent at The Nation, and CNN political contributor, the one, the only, Joan Walsh. Oh my God.
Joan Walsh is here.
I don't know how you got me back. I'm so busy, but I love you guys.
Every week we have a cocktail. For those that watch know that every week we have a cocktail. This week's cocktail, I think everybody sort of interpreted their this week's cocktail differently. How many of you actually went with the pink lady?
It is a pink lady.
It's pink and in a martini glass, so I'm calling it a pink lady.
And it's pink, but okay. It doesn't have half and half in it, or whatever that recipe called for.
I don't have a pink lady. I have my pill pack.
You gotta.
And I have a brownie.
Definitely.
And I have milk. Because, so if anybody has a pill and you want to take it before the show.
Yeah, I brought my Christian pills.
See what happens.
I brought my Christian pills.
Oh my God. I did not bring Christian pills or any pills, but
I didn't tell you to bring pills because somebody needed to be sane during this episode.
Okay, that's me then.
We are gonna get weird.
Joan Walsh is the grown-up in the room, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm used to it. I'm the oldest child in my family.
See, I'm the youngest, so it's shit hit the fan. My parents were like, just please don't use our nice teaspoons for the math. We'll be good. So this episode, it should have been called Alice. It was called Houston because, they go to Houston to this thing.
Right.
But I think it was really about Alice because she really experiences profoundly for the first time the difference between propaganda and reality, and it was super fun to watch.
I mean, we could just say Alice was definitely in Wonderland and figuring it out. I feel like we've been set up for this, right? Like, I feel like throughout the series, she's been, I think we called her in the last episode, the conscience of the show. I feel like she was often the one that was just like, but we can't be like, we can't be affiliated with this terrible thing when there was an accusation that Phyllis was a bircher, and she was like, oh no, we can't be that. And Phyllis was like, no, don't worry your pretty head about it. I feel like throughout they've sort of set us up. And to be honest, for most of the series, I've been like, Sarah Paulson's such a great actor. Why did she get this bitty role as a made up character? And then I saw this and I was like, here we are.
Right.
You know what I thought was so interesting? In that particular part, it's like, how did it seep through to those people that birchers were a nightmare? Mm-hmm. So they got that piece of information, but there was no counter information at all about feminism in their world.
Right. Well, I think, Alice tells us she's dyslexic and she's not much of a reader, right?
Well, bircher spelled backwards isn't feminist.
No. I don't know. We should try that. I'm just saying Alice wasn't fact checking anything.
No, she wasn't. But okay, does it bother anybody else that she is the composite? Or, I mean, there probably are others, but like she's the main. I mean, I love Sarah Paulson, so I could watch her do anything, and I loved the episode. But then, as I thought about it, it's just funny that the one person with a conscience is the composite, and I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what they had to do because there wasn't a real person with a conscience.
I know Phyllis didn't have any real friends. If she did,
right,
they'd write these are creators that pay attention to detail. I think the detail is that Phyllis has no friends.
Right. No, that's a really good point.
Also, I feel like Eagles who went from being extreme to being more extreme, i.e. Rosemary, from the show, was like they became famous, right? And I'm sure some Eagles like looked around at some point and was just like, oh wait, this is more than I signed up for. But then they probably just like went back to being housewives and maybe didn't write a book or serve in Reagan's administration.
Yeah.
No, their lives get any better because they didn't have the ERA.
They have the the road trip, I think that for me, this is where the distinction began with the propaganda car ride road trip across America to Houston. So we see Pamela and Alice sort of in this like adorkable fashion, just, vomit all these talking points that Phyllis has taught them.
You radical pinko man-hater.
Lesbian lover.
Commie spinster.
Baby killer degenerate.
And then the dose of reality really comes in later in the episode when she literally gets to be in the room with Gloria Steinem as she's running this meeting democratically and like through a consensus.
Before I go back to the caucuses with this new idea, I want to make sure everyone here approves this approach. Audrey?
Yes.
Carmen?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
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 Mariko?
Yes.
Rhea? Billy?
And this is in like stark contrast to Phyllis, who's been this passive aggressive dictator of sorts. So she's seeing the reality of what it's like for these feminists are being humanized. And this becomes a huge breaking point in her consciousness and soul.
When they were getting ready to get in the car and you see Alice and her mom, and it's though she's never traveled anywhere alone, and this whole like packing thing, and are you going to be okay? And are you going to be okay driving? And did you pack enough stockings? And did you pack enough anything that doesn't matter for a trip? And then you have the feminists who are like, oh, we're just going to run there from Seneca Falls. We're going to run to Texas. So the freedom of just travel was an allegory or metaphor or whatever for all of just the closed life that Alice lived versus heading to Houston as a feminist and being like, we are in it.
Also, even with that, like really staying close to that, they got lost on the way and were like, oh my God, where are we? I said, right isn't right, not left isn't no. It was very much like Trump's, I've tested positive, negatively positive. And then ultimately in the end, they were like, oh, those feminists are going there. We could just
Let's follow them. That was a little bit too much for me because that wasn't just allegorical. That was just like, oh yeah, you guys should just follow them all the way to where they're going.
They're taking you where you want. And of all the characters, they're taking you where you guys want to go, right? Like,
right.
This life sucks. You know what she needs? An ERA.
I have been looking forward to this for months. I need a break without the kids tugging at me all the time. And Kevin needs to know where I am all the time. I can't think at home. I need to think.
And look at that what happened to our thing. Now Molly's there and Joan's over there. Are we having our own acid trip? I think we might be.
I had a cookie, so maybe.
I took a pill. Maybe it's kicking in. I don't know. I feel like
I'm just having a pink lady, you guys. That's all.
But now Molly's on the bottom, and so okay, Molly, natural bottom.
Thank you.
But I think though, and when they got there, it was the helplessness of them was so glaring compared to just watching feminists running from Seneca Falls again to Houston, and then it's like, but I made a reservation at this hotel, and let's just get my husband on the phone to fix it.
My husband should be able to straighten this out. Shall we get him on the phone?
If you want, the payphones are just around the corner.
Have you talked to Buck? You should call Buck because
Buck from Illinois. Buck. It's like nobody knows fucking Buck.
I love that the front desk receptionist was just like, yeah, you can go to the payphone with Buck. Like, I want nothing to do with Buck.
Well, we've watched Alice open up her mind slightly throughout the series. We've watched Rosemary clap it up tight like a astronaut missile, right? And she walks up and she's like, look at you. There's a bathroom around the corner. There's no hotels. It was like, Jesus, there's no room at the inn. You can't come. And then when they went to the bathroom and like, it was traumatic for them to, like, Alice just was not having any changing in front of anyone or pushing people in this. It was so bizarre to me.
Traumatic for Alice, but Pamela was ready to just like take it off. And that was,
Pamela hates her life and she's just ready to change her life, period.
Like, these ladies are in their bras. They're stripping down to their bras. So am I. We have all, let's just talk. We're ladies. We've all been to conferences where God forbid, you can't check into your room, and then you run into your friend and they're like, here's my room key. Go change in my room. And the fact that that bitch did not simply say, like, I was just sitting here like, this is so unrealistic, except it was totally realistic for the time and also for their mindset.
Rosemary like really leaned into her inner mean girl in this, right? Like, I think that we knew that she was plucky, and then in this she was just like, also, I give no fucks about you.
Plucky and fucky. I don't know.
In a way, Alice was blessed because she was blessed with having to share a room and having to have her mind blown by ending up sharing a room with Audrey, and, you know, going up to that room and having adorable, first of all, the feminists brought their kids because
Right.
let's go watch women's empowerment in action and bring our children.
Right.
You know, to have her walk into that room and have her first encounter with a feminist and her every encounter with a feminist after that be really warm.
Are you a sleepover?
I'm sorry, I think we have the wrong room.
The front desk said you were coming. Welcome. I'm Audrey.
I'm Pamela. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You have a lot of bags. Want to trade?
No, but thank you.
Yeah.
It's funny, when it first happened, I was just like, oh, Audra's a high-ranking woman in the Republican Party. Like, why does she have to do this? And then in my rewatching, I got it. She was being gracious, right? She was like, I have this space, and any woman who wants to come to this conference can stay with me. Like, it was actually really, really beautiful. And she also knew exactly what she was getting into, because when her daughter was like, let's trade buttons, she was like, nah, you were not wearing it.
Yeah, I love this moment for Alice too, because she keeps getting confronted with the daughters of these feminists, and it's you know, they've staked their whole claim on being, you know, pro-family, which means the other side has to be anti-family. So when they see these different, when Alice sees this different version of family, it's again, her mind starts to explode, and empathy breaks her.
Alice's day was just garbage, and like, it's stressful enough, right? I mean, that is a bit of stress to not get your hotel, do all the stuff. But she had been tasked by her hero, Phyllis, to give a speech. And she was practicing and wanted to get it right. And so when she goes down to the room to meet her friends, her sisterhood, and already there's Rosemary already just like giving away her role and being a total like Cunty McHunterson about everything. Like, she was like Al Haig of that, I'm in charge.
I'm in charge here.
And so then when she finally got it back, the thing that was fascinating was watching her go. All she did was practice the words that Phyllis gave her. And nobody thinks about what it means when you do not formulate thoughts based on information that you can then in turn relay to people. And so she's thrust in front of those cameras, and oh my God, it was a disaster.
How do you explain the public opinion polls that show a majority of people in this country support the ERA?
Which poll?
All of them.
I never said a majority.
So you don't believe a majority of Americans support your position?
No. I mean, yes. You're twisting my words.
I felt really bad for her because a lot of it I think was that, you know, and dyslexia is a disorder. I'm not at all trying to shame dyslexia, but I think that because she called herself not a reader and didn't read, she got all her facts from Phyllis. And so, you know, she was stunned that there was a poll that said that she wasn't right. Like, wow, how insulated was her world and how like non-curious.
For her to be confronted with that was to actually require her to be able to lie on her feet. And then later in the episode, you see Phyllis lie on her feet and say, well, you know, some polls say that, and, you know, but the other polls say, which is what you're actually expected to do as a pundit. But poor Alice is so genuine. She's just like, really?
But Guys, can we get to the trip?
And if that doesn't help, I take a Christian pill. Calm the nerves.
I want some Christian pills. I don't know what they are. I assume they're Quaaludes.
And then she's pounding back whatever the fuck that drink was.
The pink
And
lady.
then I think it was the brownie that got her. She took that infant brownie.
So
No,
the brownie happens, but she's
fucked up
tripping
for the brownie.
for the brownie, right? Like she made it to the brownie because she was high. She's like,
Because she was so high.
she's sniffing strangers. She's asking the hotel receptionist to point.
Oh yeah.
That's because she couldn't read the map.
Right. But that's all before the brownie. I think the brownie.
Yeah,
was
I think the brownie was like the second wave that she rode of the high, right? Like I feel like she was already like not great. Because remember, she was already eating the trash pie before the
Garbage pie.
Did you take that from the garbage pile? I think someone's had too much to drink. I think someone has. Oh.
Oh my God. Rosemary was so angry.
Are you eating that out of the trash?
I am Alice in that scene. I really identified with Alice eating
I
garbage.
did too.
Molly, I feel like those are choices that you make.
Those are choices I make every day when I get out of bed, and I
If someone
don't.
throw the pie in the trash, I'm gonna first thing check.
I don't get sick a lot, so maybe it was a good decision. But to
Yeah.
me, she really starts to lose her mind on that phone call with her mom, listing out the recipe because we see her struggling to remember the speech that she's been over a million times with Phyllis, and then
Celery, carrots, parsley. Butter, chicken stock, sausage.
Sausage.
this is the moment where she realizes she's only allowed herself, or a combination of those two, to become an expert in the thing that the world told her she's allowed to be good at it, and it breaks her.
Also, like it was really interesting when the Christian pills lady gave her the pill, like she didn't recognize her as a member of now, right? Like she was like, oh, she's praying with me, we're talking kids, we're talking homemaking, we're talking life. And then like she is totally stunned when she realizes
angry.
Yes, she's so othered the women's lib. She's so made them into like these caricature monsters that the idea that one is just, a person like her who believes that women are people is astounding before she even gets to the drugs.
Well, and also,
that's true.
Yes, before she gets drugs. And it was almost like when someone who's super closeted, sees themselves in someone who's queer, and then they have to be very mean to that person because they don't want to recognize it in themselves.
Yeah.
Like I felt like it was that exact same thing that
that's interesting.
I felt
Well,
about
she had that in the when she sees Midge, she stumbles in to the lesbian liberation meeting, and Midge is there talking about the propaganda poster that Alice has put up.
Right.
Alice literally put up that says, has a little girl looking up and saying, "Mommy, can I be a lesbian when I grow up?" I believe that's the phrasing.
I think that's the bottom one.
The answer is yes.
If only.
But she, again, she doesn't see a radical lesbian commie. She sees a woman who is hurt by something that she literally did with her hands.
They put these posters up all over Albert Thomas.
I didn't think they would be so mean.
I'm sorry.
She literally apologizes.
to no one.
But
very quietly.
But seeing her like stumble from one room of like primal screaming to like women singing to like, I was like, that is like a whole like liberal arts freshman year, like a whole year just condensed into like one really, really high evening.
She saved a lot of money on that.
I know. Well, I think also a lot of people forget, like, it is super cartoony, but also when you think about 10 years before that, these choices weren't available to women. And so what now seems like a super cartoony thing, to be able to just be with other women and scream, or to be
you're right.
defense classes, or, you know, the idea of going into a religious service where there was a woman leading it. I mean, that was amazing.
As a Catholic, that would have blown out. I mean, it did blow Alice's mind. Also, women weren't allowed to participate in marathons literally till 1972. So even the running is new.
It was pretty amazing. I mean, it was very fun to look at what that conference was like, which I gather a lot of it was like that. I mean, certain things are not true, or certain people are composites, but you know, that conference, they really tried to bring together all.
And I love to, my favorite part of the whole tripping scene was the scene where she wanders into the sing-along with Flo Kennedy.
Oh God.
In the lesbian lounge or the gay
lounge, yeah.
Area.
She's eating whatever she's eating, some, you know, crazy hippie vegan food.
This is a new way of eating. Oh my God.
Way of eating. But that whole back and forth with her singing "This Land Is Your Land" and Flo being like, "That's Woody Guthrie."
Woody Guthrie wrote it. Oh, he's a poet. He's a socialist.
Come on. Don't be ridiculous.
You were up there belting out a Marxist song.
Oh, no. It's patriotic.
Exactly.
The only thing that was missing from that scene was a light bulb to pop over.
Right.
But I really loved it because it was like, it was a little heavy-handed, but also it was like reminding people about patriotism and about what that meant and about what populism used to be.
And that's part of what this series is so great about, which is just surfacing, I don't want to say patriotic, but just the basic American roots of all of this, and you know, and why we all deserve equal rights. And you know, and she doesn't totally know it, but she starts to get it.
Yeah, she does start to get it. And I think, you know, when she ends up, you know, back in the hotel and she's high, and then she's having those crazy Phyllis fever dreams, and Phyllis is like on her, and then she wakes up the next day, and you know, she still has those feelings, you know, and remembers the good parts of that night. And I in the scene where they're back in that room, the meeting room, you know, and she said, "Why do we have to be so mean?" I thought that was really powerful.
If we want to be taken seriously, we have to show that we are not hard-hearted, that we are not stubborn just for the sake of it. That's not Christian.
She's not even asking to think of as people, just like, do we have to be so terrible? And they don't even answer her.
When they all ended up going into the convention floor then, right? And then Alice has swallowed all of that up and taken all of it in and absorbed it. You know, you wondered where a lot of things were going to come in play. I wondered about, you know, where Alice is going to fall on standing for some of these amendments. I wondered, you know, as we haven't even talked about, like Betty Friedan threatening to disrupt the putting the queer people's part of the agenda on there.
Congress, state, and local legislatures should enact legislation to eliminate discrimination on the basis of sexual and affectional preference.
I am known to be violently opposed to the lesbian issue. As someone who perhaps loves men too much. But I do believe we must help the women who are lesbians to be protected in their own civil rights.
That was actually very moving. She'd been such an asshole on all of those issues. And she was like, in that bar scene, well, I'm going to show them what I'm all about. And then she showed a certain kind of compassion, at least for her.
Well,
I wonder if it was just being there.
I was gonna say, I feel like part of the subtext could be like, we saw Alice's journey, right? But like everyone is there with 40,000 women, 40,000 feminists, like having the convention experience. Like, is a certain point while we saw Alice's really huge convention, there were probably a lot of smaller, switch.
Oh yeah, Moji, that's another series.
And then we come to the end of the episode where we hear and see this emotional come together, and then sort of listening to that music as they cut to what felt to me like when the Nazis marched on Paris. Those buses were like the tanks, and you just see Lottie and her and leading the charge into Houston with 22,000 hate mongers, and it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and there was no music either. You could literally hear the footsteps of the people walking in, and the music is solemn. So it really did feel militaristic in that way. And we also
that's a great point.
I expected that we were, especially after Lottie and Phyllis were speaking, that we're going to see KKK and crazy, and it's going to get wild. And I love that I saw my first Confederate flag in this whole series. And I was like, we just watched a civil rights movie civil rights series that took place in the 70s, and I've seen one Confederate flag. Bravo.
I feel like we covered a lot. I feel like we should wrap it up, but I always like to wrap it up with favorite moments. And so Molly, I'll start with you. Favorite moment?
Really, my favorite moment, we talked about the convention a little bit, but just seeing everyone stand up for the plank, the sexual preference plank, made me cry, because I also did not know this convention happened. And in this show, the last time a convention happened, it was the DNC, and it was completely taken over by men, literally. So I definitely cried and had a moment. That was my favorite.
Moji?
So I really had so many moments that I enjoyed in this episode. This was a really fun episode for me. I'm going to say my favorite moment, though I said it before, is when Audrey's daughter was like, you want to switch pins? And her mom was like, nope. It's like, you don't want that pin? You don't want that pin?
Nobody wants that pin. I loved when Alice was talking to her Christian friend, because I had a feeling that was coming, that the Christian lady with the Christian pills could totally be a feminist. And it's just not in her experience that somebody who, loves Jesus and wants to pray and wants to drink is going to be a feminist. And, it's sad when she gets horrified and walks away, but it still opens up something in her.
I think for me, it was the scene where right before they're going to go to the convention at the end, and Alice really challenges them as to what their true motivations are. It was like, she was really feeling the cruelty of their movement and really not understanding why every single thing that they brought to the table that they had to oppose. And I think that challenging them and having them go, let's go, was just unbelievable to me. Well, how about cheers to all y'all for a fantastic, thank you so much for coming. To all of you, this also, if you want your friends to watch it, please tell everybody. Also, there's an audio version of this. There's a podcast that we are using to fill our Feminist Sleeper Cell podcast time until the series is over. And also, I just want to add, we do this all on a volunteer basis. So if you feel like donating, we're not going to not take your money. You can go to aaforce.org/donate and throw some pennies so that we can be doing programming like this during COVID and other times. Because where do you see this kind of shit? Who's dissecting Phyllis Schlafly? Oh, right. No one. We are. Give us money. Tip a bitch. Do it. So Thank you all so much. Joan, thank you for joining us again.
Love you.
I think we
Love
want to
you
bring you
guys.
back for the big overview show. Will you join us again?
Please do. I have
Love,
many
love,
thoughts.
love. Molly Moji, as always, I love your insights and I love you. And to you people watching, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love.
Abortion Access Front, fueled by cheap wine and the stench of patriarchy.